Tim, let's go ahead and move on here and talk a little bit about Strike. So you were at the talk with Jack Mallers. I unfortunately was not at that talk. What did Jack Mallers say? What was the announcement? And do you think that the build-up to Jack Mallers potentially announcing a partnership with Apple and then basically saying, forget you, Apple, we're going to go do our own thing, is what led to some of this drop in the price?
I'm gonna say a little bit. I want to throw it to Smay because Smay knows more about Apple and everything else. And him and I have had some great conversations over the weekend about this. But, the first thing I'll say, and I put this on my Twitter, he needs public speaking lessons. He just paced back and forth the whole time. And some people are like, oh, it's just his energy. Well, that's great. But, communicate well. Like, it was kind of distracting watching him go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But what I kind of walked away with, and again, I want to throw it to Smay to get his thoughts on this, is we all thought he was going to be announcing a partnership with Apple, right? We had all those tweets that kind of teased a relationship with Apple. He used the Apple mission. He threw out a lot of things. I think, in a nutshell, what that actually was a F you, Apple. We're going to do this without you. Because what he announced was not a partnership with Apple, but a partnership with NCR. And I'll be honest, I need to learn more about NCR as a company, but it is the payment processing company for all of the major retail outlet stores, Walmart, Target, CVS, Walgreens, Winn-Dixie. I mean, and these are stores I'm used to down here, but there's other. I mean, if you can think of a store, Best Buy, that you're walking into and purchasing things, and I get it, most people purchase things probably on Amazon, but there are still a lot of people that purchase things in stores. They're partnering with them so that, theoretically speaking, you can just straight up use your Bitcoin to pay for things. And this is the discussion we're having: is where are the taxes? What is the charge happening there, or is it incentivizing you to actually be able to use your Bitcoin? Because here's the thing. I think as soon as we start using Bitcoin is going to make a use case for politicians and regulators to actually allow it to be used full force. But at this point, most people that are wise are saying, I'm not going to spend my Bitcoin, I'm not going to spend my appreciating asset on these temporary things. But with this, theoretically speaking, could I potentially move all my money into Bitcoin, let it sit there and continue to appreciate? But when I need to buy something, rather than having to leave a large amount of US dollars on the side just so I can keep on living and keep on purchasing what I need to purchase, I actually will be able to continue to have my money appreciate, and when I need to use it, I can utilize it to buy goods. I think this is really interesting, but ultimately, like I said, in a nutshell, what Jack Mallers did that was huge was pretty much say, F you, Apple.
Yeah, and that's a very big statement, because what that means is that they're trying to build all of these payment systems without Apple Pay, which, as we talked about, I didn't know this, has 500 million users. That's ridiculous. That is an insane amount of people. So Apple probably will end up adopting Bitcoin at some point, but I was a little skeptical that Jack Mallers was going to announce that, because there was not an official Apple representative at Bitcoin 2022 that we knew of. And also, if they were going to announce something like that, Apple really likes to do everything in-house. You look at the M1 chip, one of their big things that they've done recently is they brought central processing units in-house. Am I wrong? I think they took that from Intel. They used to have Intel chips in them. They want to bring things in-house, so they want to do things themselves and have a holistic system.
AMD.
And AMD.
So,
I didn't know they were
getting
AMD.
their graphics cards from AMD.
Oh, I didn't know that they had brought graphics in-house. Yes, I thought that they had already done that.
Everything.
Oh, okay.
All their internals
they
are now
did it at
Apple.
the same time. Okay, well, that's my point. Apple's moving into this, and they have a word for it. You might know what it is. They're moving to this integrated system where they do everything in-house. Yeah. A lot of major companies, Tesla's trying to do the same thing. That's why they build their own batteries. It just reduces complexity. The point is, Apple is probably going to announce something like that on their own, and I do believe, mark my words, 90% likelihood in the next 2 years, Apple will announce Bitcoin adoption. We talked about all that in a different story. The point is, Tim, do you think, and Smay, you can add in on this as well.
His thoughts.
Smay, what are your thoughts on this, and do you think that the market dropped as a result of Jack Mallers not announcing this? Was it a buy the rumor, sell the news event?
Well, I think, just to kind of modify something that Tim said, it wasn't actually just NCR. What the announcement was is that he came out and showed that there were several different payment processors.
That was the big one.
So, he basically had made it to where they didn't really even need Apple Pay in the first place. He pretty much just showed that, now it's basically universal now. My concerns now, there's multiple concerns that I have with this in terms of in what it is. Now, first of all, this is a huge step for Bitcoin overall. But I think even in his little demo he did with his video, I got to be honest with you guys, as much as it could have been a very neat FU to Apple, I think Apple just looked at that and said,
who cares?
Nice. Because guess what, Apple is already winning when it, first of all, you can't, they're not even using near field communication NFC technology in that it's a QR code, right? That already makes it a little bit more just a hair bit of a hassle when you're talking about pulling that up. The person on the register has to pull up the barcode, the QR code, flip the screen around, blah blah blah. Versus Apple Pay, you just go boop, just boop boop, and there you go. I'm in and out.
Yeah.
So it didn't really win in the usability standpoint. I think what you're looking at is what his whole announcement predicated on was that and I think I saw somebody tweet about this, was that it was to spite, right? It was to spite the system. The only reason to
Which
use
sounds like Jack Mallers.
Yeah, the only reason to even actually use this. First of all, there was a whole argument, and I'm not even going to get into this because everyone knows this. Why would you spend your Bitcoin? This is not a good time to spend your Bitcoin. Bitcoin is very volatile. It'd be very hard for you to move all your fiat into Bitcoin and try to do all that. That there's that argument. I don't even want to go there. My argument is ease of use, and two, it's not a strong enough why of just to spite the centralized systems. If it's going to be a little bit more of a hassle to use it, then I don't think people are going to end up using it. And so I kind of see this for Apple as a big nothing burger, and I think Apple is eventually going to do something of their own that will probably do it better. So
that's the good thing. So this is also something we talked about, so I'll bring it back up.
Yeah.
Is what's good for anyone listening to this, to the average retail investor, is what this is going to spark. This F you, Apple. We're going to do this without you. We're going to do our own thing. You talked about this, May. Apple doesn't necessarily worry about being the first.
No.
They like to see technology that's utilized and then say, okay, now that I see it's possible, we'll just do it better and market it better, which for the consumer is 10 times better because now we have healthy competition. It's going to force them to work against each other to make sure that they have good pricing and better ability. So what I'm excited about is, again, the saying Apple will reduce without you. Apple's going to figure out how to do this. That's what their MO is. They do things later and they try to do it better. And now you, the consumer, will have two different phenomenal options to be able to transact and actually use Bitcoin as currency. And I know some people don't want to, but that's my point, is that if we're thinking that someday it will be used as currency, there will be a time you have to spend it. And again, how many people right now, they can't invest in Bitcoin as much as they would want to because they got to leave a certain amount of cash on the side because they got to keep living. If we start seeing things happen where you can pay for your food, your groceries, your taxes, your housing, your yada yada in crypto, then why not move all your money from a depreciating asset to an appreciating asset in Bitcoin and utilize it like that?
Well, I actually think the biggest argument for that is the volatility, right? The issue is,
but that'll bring stability.
Well, and I think that's what Bitcoin needs ultimately. But it's not. It's going to be hard for the early adopters, right? Because next thing you know, because of the volatility of Bitcoin in the short term, every month when I'm going to pay my bills in Bitcoin, I'm paying a different amount. Because the rent value is the same, but I'm having to pay different amounts because Bitcoin keeps going up and down. That becomes something that becomes a big issue on that end. The way I see it is, it's almost like giving an average high school basketball player a 30-yard head start on Usain Bolt. You know what I mean? Like, Usain Bolt's still gonna win. So it's like, yeah, you got the head start, so you're ahead for a second.
Distance, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying the high schooler's gonna have be in the lead for a little bit, but next thing you know, you have Usain Bolt coming right from behind you. That's what Apple's always done. They're very consistent about it. I think in hindsight, the biggest clue. The thing is, a lot of people say, well, Apple didn't deny the rumor.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, Apple never does that. That's like a part of Apple's operation. Like, whenever something leaks about an iPhone, technology, anything, they are a zero communication policy. They do not. The only two times you ever hear from Apple in a year is WWDC and then their Apple event where they announce their new technology. That is the only two times you ever hear from Apple in the year, basically, right? So ultimately, I think, first of all, the fact was that there was there's nobody from Apple there. Apple is always gonna be the ones to communicate it themselves. That is the first and foremost the thing I think that makes it very clear in hindsight that it wasn't gonna be an Apple announcement, unless it was a lesser Apple Pay partnership, which is not even that big of a deal. The second thing would have been that we need to now wait till the Apple event. What is Apple going to announce in response? And that's going to be what we're going to.
I just don't know why Apple would partner with Strike. Why wouldn't they just do it themselves? You know, the Apple's wearables division is large enough to be a Fortune 50 company. Like, that's how insanely massive Apple is. If they're going to do this on Apple Pay, why wouldn't they just do it all in-house?
No, and the thing is, what's interesting is, like, a lot of these partnerships that Strike just announced, and it's great, Apple's got all this stuff in their pocket already. I mean, it's a matter of a blink, and they have all this stuff we just hyped about Strike getting partnered with. Boom, they've got all the resources they need to get their Bitcoin integration rolled out. So, I mean, ultimately, I think that at this point, as much of a development in the space that was for Bitcoin, I actually kind of see that as this is not going to be felt for a very long time.
You know, there's a comment right here that's also another great point. I forgot about the details of it. Troy Lindsay just commented saying, as a small business owner who has paid 2 to 4% on every transaction and had to wait a week for settlement, this actually helps and will help the business owner more than the consumer. That was the other part of this, is that it cuts out that waiting time. Like, it's literally he showed in his example, and to your points, maybe it was a little more complicated than a simple Apple Pay, but he showed a very quick transition, and it wasn't like, okay, as a credit card, this now has to be settled, has to go get tracked, the banks have to confirm it. This is an instant acceptance, an instant settlement. And so I think Troy is absolutely right. This is not just good for institutional people, and he's actually saying it's better for the business owner than the institution.
Well, and I think
we know that's true because we have to pay 2 to 4% on transactions as well. So we're looking forward to the day where Bitcoin is being able to use as a payment processor where we don't have to do that. When we take Bitcoin payments, we love it because we don't have to pay 2 to 4% to Stripe or PayPal, who does our business, our payment processing. So that's a very good point.
Well, I think it actually but it's a good point in the fact that it's what Jack was saying. It's a superior payment network, you know, all this stuff. It's great, right? But the issue is overall that if you're only as the user, right? The businesses, they're benefiting, right? But that doesn't give me any reason as the user unless it's some kind of moral thing that I'm going to do it for, like to help the small business, right? But most people don't think like that. A lot of people are very, very self-minded, you know? So it's like at the end of the day, I'm going to use whatever's the easiest, whatever works in that I don't have to really even think about. And I think ultimately that's why there's going to be a lot of catching up to do. Strike still has to solve. They have to, first of all, I would say the first thing they need to do is implement NFC technology. They need to make it easier at the checkout, first and foremost. And then you can start making the argument that overall, this is a better form payment system. I would even say, I don't think this is going to happen. I would love to see them potentially add a two-way fiat kind of bridge to where it's like I can actually just have my fiat money go through the Lightning Network, convert to Bitcoin, boom, convert back kind of thing. I think that would also be a great way.
They announced it could be utilized almost any direction.
Okay, well then there you go. I didn't hear that in the announcement. But
you can use fiat, you can use Bitcoin, you can use other altcoins that operate in the Strike. I don't know what the deals with all those are, but you can turn fiat into Bitcoin, you can turn Bitcoin into fiat. It can go any direction.
I didn't hear that in the announcement, but if that's the case, then that I mean that's one piece. Now make it easier. You know, that's because you've made it easy. You've made it beneficial for the business. That's great. Now, the person needs to have a reason to use it, more than just some moral high ground stance. So,
absolutely. Well, guys, thank you very much for all of that. That was a great conversation on Apple. I do look forward to the day when Apple steps into the space because, as someone said in chat earlier, 500 million users is not something to scoff at. The fact of the matter is, what drives technological development is simplicity. Google has a 2-click model. They want you to be able to get to any site in the internet with 2 clicks. Click the search bar, type it in, click your result. That's what they want you to be able to do. That is the same model and the same idea of this simplistic UI UX development that is going to lead Bitcoin to being very successful. So I completely agree with you, Smay. Whenever you see Bitcoin being able to be used as simply as fiat, adoption will take place lightning fast, no pun intended, and it will absolutely overwhelm the media. It's going to come so quickly. And as Kathy Wood said, I do completely agree that we will see a $1 million Bitcoin in 2022 dollars. I'm not talking about inflated $20, $30. I'm talking about in 2022 dollars. I think you're going to see a $1 million Bitcoin. Because of inflation, it'll probably be $2 to $3 million by the end of the decade.
Whoa there, partner. You watched the whole video. Good on you. Now what you can do to make me even happier is go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, bing that notification bell, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.